So if there's any questions while we're going, please unmute yourself and ask, because since I'll be looking down at my workspace, I may not see anything in the chat, or just say, hey, I sent a message to you if you don't want to say it out loud. So, okay. So on that note, I'm going to switch my camera so that you can see my workspace here. Okay. So here's what we're painting, this little chubby cardinal here. I have a thing for cardinals. Apparently every beginning of the year I teach a cardinal class, different cardinals in various ways. I did an abstract one last year, so I just love them. My grandmother always used to look out the window and point them out, so I have a thing for them. But anyway, so I work teaching the background to the foreground. So we're going to start by doing this this background color here. So, oh, and one thing, in your kits, the people that got kits shipped to them, you have a foam brush. It's a sponge brush. I'm using a wash brush instead of that, just because it's what I had easier access to here at my desk. And we will only be using that foam brush or wash brush for the background. So on a plate or piece of plastic or whatever you have on hand to mix colors, I want you to mix a gray color. So what you're going to do is you're going to take some of the black here and you're going to add some white to it to get a grayish color. And if you notice, my background was sort of textured like different colors, so I'm not going to worry too much about mixing this fully. So if there's some swirls of paint that are lighter or darker, don't worry about it, because we will be adding more texture. And if you are using a canvas that has an edge to it, such as a wrapped canvas like those that got the kits would have, you can paint the sides as we're working. So once you have your gray mixed, just cover the entire canvas with your gray color. Now, I'm notorious for either over mixing or under mixing enough paint, but since this is such a textured background, you can just mix some more and not have to worry too much about it matching exactly. So has anybody ever attended a paint and sip before, either in person or online?
This is my first.
Awesome. Virtual is quite different from in person, because in person people tend to get competitive because they can see what other people are doing, and it becomes quite interesting. But virtual also allows some people to be more freeing with their painting because they're not so worried about other people seeing stuff. So there's benefits and disadvantages to both. I actually have a lot of couples that come in to my live classes, and they actually ask people to judge who did the better job of painting. quite competitive. Hi guys, I do apologize. My husband is sick and there's apparently a catastrophe with one of my kids. I'm so sorry. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. One of the things with working from home. Okay, so if you've got your gray covering your whole canvas now, without washing your brush, and while it's still a little wet on here, you're just going to dip in some white paint, just a little bit, if you can see my brush, and we're going to do these streaks like you see in the sample painting here. And you're just going to go ever so often and just do a streak and then do up and down strokes to kind of blend it in. And then you'll do another streak and then again up and down strokes. Just do as many or as few as you want. My theory for doing these strokes is to make it look kind of like snowfall in the distance, or maybe the trunks of birch trees or something in the distance. Just gives it some texture, I guess a little bit of depth too. And I know there's a glare from the light above, but I'm going to shift my canvas so you can see it's just a little bit of streaking here. Gives it some interest. If you went a little heavy-handed with the white paint, you can go back over it with some gray. Acrylic paint is really easy to work with in that it dries fast and then you can paint over it very easily. Once you have your streaks done, you can, if you're gonna toss your sponge brush, you can just toss it or rinse it out. So we are done with that brush for the evening. And we do want this to dry pretty well before we move on to the next step. So I'm going to give it a couple minutes before we move on. see some people are still painting, and that is totally fine. I'm just going to talk about our next steps here while the background is still drying. So we're going to start working on, once this is dry, these branches here. And if you look out in nature, a tree branch is, none are the same, are the same. So they're kind of crazy. You don't want to make two straight of lines when you're doing this. So kind of embrace random and embrace like natural curves as your hand moves. Another thing to note, and this is totally optional, something I like to do is, you can see these branches are a little bit lighter. Those would be ones that are further in the distance, and then these dark black ones would be ones that are closer up. So I will teach you how to do that, but if you don't want to do that process, you can just do them all black. Does anybody have any questions before we move on? Okay. On a side note, if you're ever painting on your own and you're impatient like I am, you can always use a blow dryer to dry your paint faster. Doesn't work with oils so much, but if you're working with acrylic, it works well. Is everybody's pretty much dry, or are we still? Okay, I'll give it a couple more minutes. Okay. Do we think we might be ready for the next step? Or do you need more time? Ready? Okay. So you're going to take, mine's a little used, so it's flailing out, but the thinner of the two blue handled. So this will be a small round brush. This one, I want to say is a size 2 if you've got numbers on your brushes. But those of you that got kits, you got a flat one like this and then one that comes to a point. So we're using the one that comes to a point here. Okay. And one of the tricks with using these brushes, these small brushes like this to get a line is to not apply too much pressure. So if you look at my palette that I have here, and if you can see my brush, if you put a lot of pressure, your bristles fan out. But if you're going to if you do the lightest pressure, it stays pretty solid. So I'm going to start by mixing a lighter gray than the base of my background here. This is to do those branches that are in the distance. If you don't want to do that, you can just do black for this step. And once you have the color you like, give you guys a minute to mix that. Okay. So once you have your color mixed, we're going to start drawing out the branches. And if you're a little nervous about doing the full branch in one stroke, I'm going to show you how you can do it with a bit more confidence. So as you can see in the sample that I just had, the branches are coming from off the page, so we don't have to worry about drawing a trunk or anything. So I'm going to take just the point of my brush and figure out a spot on the side here. And I'm just going to do little short strokes, and they don't have to be connected, just little short strokes until I get the branch about to where I want it. And then I'll put more paint on my brush and go back over it like that. Okay. Now with branches, the closer they get to the trunk, the thicker they get. So I'll just come back and thicken it on that side. Okay. And with each branch, you can do those little, the ones that come off of it like this here. So not every branch has to have that, but all you do is just pick where you want it to come from and just do the same kind of motion. You can do your short, quick strokes and just have a branch coming off. And we'll just do a few of these gray ones that are off in the distance, and then we'll switch to black. And I should say, I have a thing for having everything come off the right side of the canvas. I think it's because I'm right-handed. But if you prefer things coming off the left side, please feel free to do that. Whatever's most comfortable for you. You can even have some coming off both sides of the canvas if you want. You can even have branches overlapping with each other. So if you look at a tree, they do cross quite a bit. But again, it's your painting. You do what makes you happy. So I'm happy with the number of gray branches, so I'm going to switch over to black, but you do it, as many as you want to do. So I'm just cleaning the gray out of my brush, and then I'm just going to dip in straight black. And the only thing I really suggest is your bird is going to be sitting on a branch, so you should have probably just one, at least one dominant one that goes a large portion across the canvas, just so you have a nice base for your bird to sit on. Do you have any questions on the branches or anything, or about anything else while we're working here? And as you can see, I'm just doing, because this is a much bigger branch, I'm doing a few more of those smaller branches coming off of it than I did on the other ones. But again, personal preference, you don't have to do that unless you want to. And I think I'm going to stop there, but you feel free to continue. So we will let these branches dry, and then our next step will be to add the, I guess, abstract snowy accent to it. If you're done drawing your branches, you'll want to rinse this thin brush out to get all the black out of it. Because we'll be working, excuse me, with white. And even a tiny bit of black will make it gray instead of white. Excuse me. Are we still working on building branches, or do we want to add the snow?
I'm still painting, but feel free to move on if you need to, if everyone else is ready to go.
Give it a minute. Rebecca and crew, do you need more time? Or are you good for the snow? You're good? All right. Melinda, is that okay? You good to go? All right. All right. So all we're going to do right now is take that skinny little brush and just dip it in white. And we're just going to go over the top part of the branches. And if you watch what I'm doing here, I'm just following the top of the branch here. And then here's where the little branch comes off of it. I cover that. And then I'm coming down here. And if you can see on the camera, I didn't, here, let's see. I started where this branch leaves up and I'm going here, if that makes sense. So I'm not connecting this one with that. Does that make sense? My wording is off tonight, but you get the idea. So you'll just go over all the branches. The only ones I wouldn't do is if there's one that's, you know, underneath that's pointing straight down, because the snow will just fall off like this right here. And the other thing you need to be a little careful about is if you did cross branches like I did right here. I'm going to show you here. So this one crossed over this one. So I'm going to bring the snow over and stop where that branch starts. And then I'm going to pick up on the other side of it. So you can definitely see where the branches cross. Let's see if I can get that closer. My kids have been playing the Encanto soundtrack almost nonstop these days, and the music is stuck in my head right now, and I'm hearing it over and over again in my head as I'm painting. Did any of you watch Bob Ross back in the day? The Bob Ross show. So you can't see it, but
I did.
I grew up, my grandmothers loved my grandmother and grandfather loved watching him. My grandfather was a brilliant artist and he loved watching other artists do their thing. So I grew up watching him. And my friend knows my love and fondness for Bob Ross, and you can't see it right now because the camera's on my desk, but I have a Bob Ross shirt on that says Happy Tree University. I like to tell this story too. My oldest daughter she'll be 11 this summer. And so I tried to introduce her to Bob Ross, and she was all excited watching these beautiful landscape paintings. And so she goes into school, I would say the next day, or maybe the next week or whatever, and tells her art teacher, that we've been watching lots of Bob Ross videos. And the teacher looks at her and goes, "I can't stand Bob Ross." And my daughter's heart was broken. I was like, "Oh my gosh, why would she say that?" And who could hate it? Well, I haven't seen the documentary. I know there's some other things out there going on now. But it's just, he's so relaxing and calming to watch those videos. And why would you say that to a kid that was so excited? Hi, Kira.
Hi guys, sorry I'm late.
It's okay.
I figured I'll just come and hang out now at this point.
That's fine. I'm all about hanging out. It's being recorded, so
Okay.
I'm gonna share it in the member group probably tomorrow after I can download it, and so you'll be able to watch from there. So
Oh, okay. Yay, that's awesome. Okay, cool. Plans changed tonight. My parents came into town and then we thought they were leaving, and then they decided not to leave. And then they were like, let's go out for dinner. And of course, it's a Saturday night. Ugh, yeah. Anyways. So I'll just come hang out with you guys.
yeah, no problem.
Oh, hi, Hannah. I just noticed her there too.
How's everybody doing with the snow? Good. So Kira, this is what we're painting, what we're working towards here. So
I forgot that I muted myself. It's so cute.
you know, it's funny is that I taught this in an in-person class in January, and every time I paint things, they look slightly different because it's incredibly difficult to copy something exactly unless you're doing it like taking your time, and I can't take my time in classes. So the one I was doing in the live class ended up looking like an angry bird, like he was really like that really big belly, and I was making him chubby on purpose, but this one was really like that red angry bird.
Oh my gosh. That's funny. No, I love it. I always love watching looking at people's pictures at the end because I'm just like, I don't know, it's just people's different perspectives and stuff.
Yeah,
I think it's so fun.
yeah. No, I love it, and I was saying at the beginning, I love when people make it their own. You know, there's some people that want to make it exactly like mine, and I want you guys to have fun and love it. And so if there's something you want to change, do it. And some people take me seriously, which is good, but other times people are like, I can't do it, I have to do it exact. And I have some paintings where I'm like, embrace the random, and they're like, what do you mean? I don't do random. So but everybody gets through it and ends up being happy with their paintings. So
Yeah.
okay, so our next step is going to be to draw the bird. And my process as an artist is to look at things instead of as what they are. So instead of looking at it and saying that's a bird, I look at the different aspects of it and look for shapes. Okay, so that's how I teach, is teaching by drawing it via shapes. Okay, so like here is a triangle. Okay, so we're going to start with a triangle, and then we're going to do a circle off of that, and then a rectangle for the tail. And this is how I end up doing my paintings that I sell professionally. And I mean, let's see if you can show you, like, can you see that, this lollipop thing here? I mean, that's how I do it. I just start with shapes, you know, so we're going to take that same brush we've been working with, this little skinny one, and we're going to draw the head as a triangle. So we're just going to dip it in the red. And just like with the branches, you don't want to push too hard with otherwise the bristles will fan out. Okay, so the bird's going to be, say, probably like 3 or 4 inches tall on my canvas. If you got the 8x10, it'll be a little bit smaller. If you have the 11x14, it'll be slightly bigger. So just pick about how tall you want the bird to be, but the bottom of him minus the tail is going to be touching this branch. So I'm just going to come up here. I think he's going to be about this tall here. So I'm going to start just with a triangle shape. Okay. And we're not going to fill it in yet. We're just drawing the outline right now. Okay. And then you're going to come off of the bottom of the triangle over here, or whichever way you draw, and you're going to make a circle. Okay. So the bottom of the circle will be sitting on the branch. So now we have almost like a teardrop shape here. Okay. Now the bottom of the circle is right under the branch there. I'm going to do almost like a rectangular shape. So I'm going to come down one line here. And if you cross over branches, that's fine. And then the other line here, coming down. And then instead of closing it with a straight line, which you can do, I'm just going to come and do almost like the shape of an open book here. Just 2 curved lines to connect it. That'll kind of give it the appearance of, it being the end of a bird's tail. And once you have your outlines done, you'll take, I like using the wider of the 2 brushes because it'll do it faster, but you can use that thin brush and just fill it in completely. Now, depending on the paints you're using, if it's a student or craft grade paint, such as what's in the kits that I shipped out, it may be a little streaky, and that's because it doesn't have as much pigmentation as a professional set of paint. Oh, excuse me. But that's okay. We are going to be layering. So don't worry too much about any streakiness. You'll be going over most of this with a second coat of either the base red or our shadows and highlights. Believe it or not, there's only a few more steps here.
I can't see your paintings, but I know they're all beautiful, you guys.
I'm sure they are. Even when people are insecure about it, they're usually very, very good. So one of the beautiful things about acrylic paint is how you can layer the colors because it does, excuse me, dry quickly. And that is how you get that more realistic look to them, is by adding layer upon layer. So I'm going to teach you how to do some shading to really make the piece pop. As you can see on my sample here, I've got some shading throughout on the tail and around the body. Oh, but first I need to teach you how to do that crest on the top of the head. So when I paint this, I picture it like a fan, how fans open up, like this. So that's how we're going to draw the crest. So I'm dipping the little tiny brush in the red paint, and starting at the very top of your triangle, you're going to do a little bit of a curved line, and then you're just going to work your way down the head. And the further down the head you go, the further downward the crest will point. And I'm just going to go over it a few times, and it ends up looking, let's see, like hairs or little feathers here. And you just keep doing that until you're happy with how it looks. Let's see with the lighting. Because it's wet, it's shining. But you can see kind of that fan look on the sample here.
Is there some way you could keep the sample up so we know kind of what you're doing and then the end result too?
I don't know how to keep it up at the same time.
If you maybe moved your paint palette off a little bit, maybe. If you have them, I don't know.
Yeah, I can try to do that.
Thank you.
There, is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
My husband just brought me wine, so
Oh, there we go.
now I have something to do while I watch you all.
So one of the things about me is I am not a natural extrovert. So when I'm teaching classes, especially a long class in person, it takes a lot of the energy out of me. And so my therapist calls me an extroverted introvert because I can kind of be extroverted for a very short amount of time. And my husband has now learned that when I come home, he hands me a glass of wine and he goes, "All right, see you later."
I love that. I get that.
Mhm.
I feel that.
It's fairly common. And people that don't know me on a more personal level think I am such an outgoing person, but it's a very short-lived thing. And if you see me in art shows, especially I don't know, because most of you aren't in Alexandria, if you're familiar with something called Art on the Avenue, it's literally a 12-hour art show. And yeah, you're peopling for 12 hours. And I'm dead for days after that. I did it in October, and it literally took me about 3 days to recover from that because it was just so much interaction and crowds because it was the first time people really went out before. I mean, since the pandemic for something like this, so it was just people everywhere, and it was just my friend was helping me, and she's like, "Do you need to walk away?" I'm like, "There's people everywhere. I can't get away."
I've definitely felt that way just with the pandemic. Like anytime we go anywhere, like just the grocery store,
Yeah.
I come back and I'm like, I'm done with people. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I've had my fill.
Yeah. And my husband is the opposite. He's quiet, but he definitely thrives off of being around people. And I'd be fine being home all the time. Like that, I'm just that type of person. I do need to talk to people, but I can do that on the phone and be fine. But he needs to be with people. So the whole working from home thing was really hard for the beginning of the pandemic. So okay, so it's okay if your bird is still slightly wet here, and I'm going to show you how to do these shadows. So on your palette, I'm just going to shift this so you can see. We're going to mix a little bit of red with just a touch of black, and it's going to give you kind of a dark red color here. And it's not going to look very pretty on whatever palette you're using, excuse me, paper plate or plastic or whatever you happen to have, but it's going to work well on the painting. So once you have your color done, you're going to take your brush and just starting right about the middle of the belly here, just kind of swoop around here and just blend back and forth. okay? And you're gonna have this bit of a shadow, okay? And then you're gonna come from the other side, so just under the crest, if you can see on the sample here, just under where your crest is. And you're gonna do the same thing, okay? Just come up and around and then just take your brush back and forth like that. And then this just kind of gives you a bit of dimension to the bird. And if you went and it looks kind of blocky like mine does here, just dip in a little bit of red and just go over that. Blend it in, just back and forth. Okay. We're going to do the same thing with the tail, but we're going to start from the bottom. So I like to hold my brush vertically instead of holding it flat like this. Can you see I'm turning it so that it's vertical here? And I'm going to start at the base of the tail and just pull up. The base of the tail and just pull up. And that's going to give you that kind of feather-like appearance. And you can go back in with a little red if you need to, just to kind of break it up. Okay. We are done with the flat brush now, and we'll just be doing the rest with the little skinny brush. Excuse me. So one of the things I like to do, if you can see on the sample here, I made him look a little fluffy, almost as if he's just having a little bit of a rest, and birds tend to puff their feathers out when they're resting. So we're going to take that little skinny brush and we're just kind of similar to the strokes you did to get your little crest fan thing. But instead, we're going to just do fewer of them and just make it look like there's some feathers sticking out on the belly there. Okay. And if there's too much contrast, you can always go in with that darker color you made and add some in there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in, and if you can see on the sample, there are a few highlights. It's kind of hard to see with the lighting, but there are a few highlights. If you can see very lightly here, some lines, and up here, a few lines. So what we're going to do, we're going to make a pink color, and I know that sounds a little weird, but it works out well because just using white will make it too stark of a difference. So we'll do pink. So to mix pink, you mix red and some white. And this is a pretty intense red, so if you put a lot of it, you'll need quite a bit more white. But you should get a little bit of a pink color here. Okay. And then what you're going to do is just come, again, almost like where we put the feathers around the belly here. You're just going to come in and just do a few lines. You can do short ones or long ones. Just to add a little bit of a highlight here and there. And I do some over here on like the shoulder area. And then the last place I would do it is up here in the crest, just to add a little bit of definition there. We're almost done, guys. How's everybody doing?
Doing great, thanks.
Okay. So our next little step is going to be to draw the face on. So we're going to start blocking with the black here. And I called it a Muppet mouth when I was trying to describe it before, because it's kind of a triangle, but not, you know, not exactly. So you're going to start right about, so here's where your crest is, and about just above where the circle started. So right here, you're going to come across with a slight curve upward. Oops. And then you're going to do a curve down, almost like a monster smile, or like I said, a Muppet mouth. Like that. And then you're going to fill that in with black. And while we have the black, his little feet on the branch, I'm just going to do 3 little curved lines just to show his little toes on the branch. So the next thing we're going to do is his beak. And you'll notice I did not send orange paint. So you're going to take a little bit of red and some yellow. And as I mentioned before, that red is pretty intense. So you're going to want more yellow than red. And if it's too intense, you can add a touch of white and you should end up with something that looks like this color. It'll look like that on my palette. So to draw the beak, it's basically another triangle. It starts inside the black here, so just a little bit inside the black. And then goes outwards. Oops. And then you can just fill it in with the orange. It's a little transparent. You can do a second coat once it dries. So the next thing is going to be the eyes. And if you can see on my painting here, the sample, if you look at a cardinal, their eyes kind of blend in with the black because their eyes are like a blackish color. Excuse me. So I just did the highlight just to show the point where the eyes are. So I'm just dipping my brush. I cleaned all the orange out of it and I'm dipping my brush in the white paint. And then I'm just going to do, you can do as many dots as you want. But I just did 2 little dots to show the highlights on that eyeball there. And the last little step is to draw this little line to show the sections on the beak. So that's just black. And you literally just draw a little line down the middle of the beak like that. And you have survived a paint and sip. And I always tell my students to sign your masterpiece. So don't forget to do that. Do you have any questions or anything? Everybody ready to show their masterpiece?
Oh, there's Hannah. Drum roll. Whoa,
Yeah.
that's so cute, Hannah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I just saw Mindy's too. So cute. Aw.
So if we want to take a
Yay.
group picture,
We're not quite done, but that's what we're done.
oh, such a great job, guys.
Oh my gosh, they did so great.
Yeah, they did.
I love it.
Okay. So, let's see here. Whoop. Do we want just faces or do we want the paintings too? On here. Up to you guys. Everybody, 1, 2, 3. All right.
This is your picture. I love it.
I did take a picture. Oh, there's a reflection. Oh man. All right, let me try one more time.
Got my wine, so.
Yes, hold up the wine. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Better. All right. Okay. So I will post that when I post the video as well. But if there aren't any questions, I wanted to say thank you so much for spending your evening with me. I hope you had fun. And those of you that got a kit, my business card is in there if you want to follow me. Otherwise, I'm sure I'll see you guys in the group again soon. Okay. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. This was really fun. Appreciate it.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good
Bye.
night, you guys.